A Shop for Killers episode 2 begins with Min-Hai driving up to Jin-man's house and sending drones towards it. The scene shifts to Jian's grandmother's funeral in the past, when Jian was still very young. Jin-man thinks there's something fishy about her death, but Jian's father says she was unwell for a few years. When Jian breaks something, her mother asks Jin-man to take her and go home while they handle everything else. After they leave, the sniper who was attacking Jian comes to pay his respects. He claims to be an old friend of Jin-man's, but there is a sinister vibe about him. Back home, Jian can't sleep and asks Jin-man about death. He's watching a nature documentary where hyenas attack a lion and tells Jian that death isn't something to be afraid of. Only the weak bark while the strong stay quiet. Jin-man then gets a call on his burner phone. He answers and then tells Jian he has to go to the funeral hall and she'll be home alone. Jin-man's friend will come to get her, but she should only open the door if he is able to solve a riddle. She chooses a riddle about a horse and he leaves, telling her he'll be right back. When he's gone, a man indeed comes to Jian's door. As instructed, she asks him the riddle. But the man picks the lock and enters. Before he can do anything, somebody pulls him out and the door slams shut. Jian hears them fight, and after a bit, the other man comes in and shows her the correct answer to the riddle. He communicates by typing on his phone and tells her he is her uncle's friend. As more people come up the stairs, he tells Jian to stay in her room. In the midst of the fight, she cracks the door open and sees the sniper from before attacking her uncle's friend, cutting his hand off. The sniper and his colleague then enter her room and find that Jian climbed out the window and is hanging from a rod on the outside of the building. When he reaches out for her, she lets herself fall down on some sofas discarded on the street. However, while running away, she gets hit by a car. This works in her favor as a crowd gathers and the killers can't attack her again. As she wakes up in a hospital, we hear two policemen discussing how her parents were murdered at the funeral home. They say she has an uncle, but he's been missing for years. At night, Jian dreams of a hyena holding Jin-man's friend's hand, torn off his body. She wakes up in the hospital bed, but one of the killers is right outside her room. He enters and realizes that Jian escaped yet again. She runs all the way to the morgue and crawls inside one of the morgue's drawers, hiding alongside the body, which turns out to be her own mother's. The killer is about to find her when somebody else opens the morgue's door. Gunshots are heard, and afterwards, Jin-man opens the drawer and picks Jian up. He tells her to close her eyes and takes her home. 1 month later, Jian and her uncle drive towards the countryside. They reach the house that we saw in the first episode. When Jian trips and falls, Jin-man tells her that he can't be a parent to her like her mother and father. She picks herself up. While Jian is sleeping, Jin-man recalls how he was told that she has aphasia with dissociative amnesia. He's clearly worried and blames himself, even slapping himself across the face as penance. At school, a teacher tells Jin-man that Jian is being bullied for not being able to speak. When a boy makes a crass statement about her parents, she throws a chair at him. One day, she even walks home in the rain. Jin-man drives up to her on the road, but she doesn't get it. He lingers for a while and then drives away. Naturally, she falls sick. Over time, she learns to get her own food and begins communicating with Jin-man through post-its. At school, Jin-man tells the teacher she'll have to overcome her aphasia on her own. Once, 3 boys lock Jian inside a basement storeroom at school. As night falls, she once again sees the hyena holding the man's cut-off hand. As she keeps hitting the locked door, she finally speaks and calls out her uncle's name. Jin-man arrives and opens the door, and Jian finally lets out what she was holding in. She screams, asking him why he didn't come right back as he promised that day. Why was he late? He apologizes to her. At home, he cooks a pork belly barbecue and they eat together. She tells him it tastes good. Back in the present, the older Jian hesitates as Min-Hai knocks on her front door. She tells Minhai that her uncle isn't coming home. Minhai pulls out a gun and speaks in Mandarin, trying to get Jian to open the door. She realizes Minhai is lying and challenges her, but the latter simply leaves. Jian